Hey everyone, it's Andy here, of Saving to Invest, and today's video I'm going to talk about amended returns and especially refunds related to these types of returns. It's been a lot of delays and a lot of issues people are facing, so I'll go into details on this video today. If you like what you see, please hit the like button and subscribe to keep getting more videos throughout tax season and into the year. So, as I mentioned, amended returns, which are normally filed to fix an issue with the previous return, have actually been experiencing a lot more refund delays. But they're a completely separate category. They're treated by the IRS as a different processing batch. So they follow a different cycle, and unfortunately, they tend to be down the line in terms of regular refunds. So who have amended returns, which is completely normal, and probably about 10% of all returns are amended at some point, but it has taken a long time for people. So I'll talk about getting your refund status for amended returns. I'm going to touch on the delays in processing and what are some of the issues that are causing these things, and then using your online IRS transcript to get more information because people get stuck with the tool, uh, where is their refund, but then when they look in their transcript, they can actually get more details on what's happening and potentially why things took so long, or specifically what actions the IRS took, for example, when they get a notice. So it's just another way of finding out more information. So let's talk a little bit about the processing of amended tax returns. Firstly, it's no surprise that there have been ongoing delays for the last 2 years. There's many reasons. I've published videos before due to COVID, due to staffing shortages, due to the fact that a lot of these are done on paper, so it takes longer to manually process them. And they tend to have a lot of issues as well because people who amend probably had an error previously, so it just takes the IRS a while to get through it. Based on statistics, this keeps changing. There's probably about 2 million amended returns. Again, this covers the last several years, not just last year, that are still being processed by the IRS and reviewed. And the hope is that with extra funding for the IRS, as I talked about in my previous videos, they should be cleared as well from the overall backlog as well. But there's still, millions of people, and while it may not seem huge compared to the 140 million plus tax returns filed last year, it does add up, and a lot of people who are impacted need the money pretty badly as well. So normally they say the standard time frame for processing an amended return is 16 weeks or about 4 months, but I'm seeing a lot of cases, especially on a recent article I wrote on this, and I'll post that in the description below, that it's taking more than 20 weeks. Some are people even saying more than 1 year. Some are still waiting for their 2020 returns or amended returns for 2020 to be processed. And the issue with this is that if you amend a previous year return, it potentially can affect your following year return, even though they're independent, because certain incomes and deductions are based on prior years. So this gets a huge cascade of issues. And again, a lot of amended returns have to be filed on paper, and this just adds to the process because they have to then be manually loaded, manually processed. And I'll talk a little bit about the FAQs on that in the next section. It's also important that you should not be filing a second same year tax return if you have a mistake. You'd normally do an amendment for that, and generally, you should not be contacting the IRS directly unless it's been 16 weeks. Now, there's ways to check your return, and again, amended returns, unlike regular returns, you can't just go to the Where's My Refund tool. There actually is a Where's My Amended Return status tool, because again, separate system, separate processing for these. So that's where you should go after about 16 weeks. Then you can actually try and contact a live agent. But generally, the tool is good, and I'm going to show you also the tax transcript could be another great place to get more information on your amended return. It has a really good page specifically around amended return FAQs. It's a bit of a beast to get through, but I'll post a link as well for that below, and it's worth checking out if you have very specific questions around amended returns. But just wanted to touch on a few of the questions and the answers that specifically could help with people facing delays and sort of the submission of these amended returns. So just remember, amended returns generally have to be filed by paper unless they were done for tax years 2019, 2020, and 2021, and going forward. 2022 should also allow it to be done electronically. So what this means is that if it's electronic, it just means it's faster processing because it's able to automatically get into the systems, go through checks, versus if it's before 2019, and there are some people waiting for pre-2019 amended returns or corrected returns, because you can correct a return, up to 3 years afterwards. these have to be done by paper. And when you file by paper, it has to be mailed, it has to come back. It just takes a lot longer, and several months is not uncommon. So just remember that, you only from 2019 could you have done the 1040X form through tax providers electronically. Again, there's other point here is if you're amending a prior return and the original return for that year was filed on paper, the amended return also must be filed on paper. And that's an important point because even though you can do 2019, 2020, and 2021 by electronically, if you had filed those by paper, then the amended return also has to be by paper. So you can't mix and match electronically as well. But the good thing is, even though, and you can see here some of the tax years, the number of forms you can amend is, increasing. The number of forms you can amend electronically is increasing. It still is, a lot of it is still paper-based, but I'm assuming 2022, as systems are modernized by the IRS, things should start getting much better. And then the other thing to note about is you'll be able to file 3 accepted returns, right, electronically, right? After the third accepted amended return, the system will reject you. So you can't just keep amending every single time. So just be mindful of that as well. And you just can't keep on filing amended returns if you find out something or something changes. And a lot of people are getting rejected or they get stuck because they're trying to file multiple times, for example, by paper. And a couple of sort of FAQs that I think are worth noticing from the IRS is that you can always check the your amended return on the Where's My Amended Return tool. You could call the number here, 866-464-2050, but expect a hold. But generally, you need to wait 3 weeks until you file the return. And again, like I said previously, calling the IRS, normally they'll say wait for the 16 weeks or something to get a real update when they expect processing to happen, because you can probably only initially call them to see, hey, have they received it, which you can do online. But talking to an agent, you'll have to wait until IRS processes are done. Again, there's always say filing online is the best and fastest way to get information. I'm going to talk a little bit about your transcript as well. That's another good tool that you could use to see what the IRS is doing with your amended return. And then you can use the WMAR tool, where is my amended return tool, to get the status for the current tax year and up to 3 prior tax years. If you have before that, you'll need to call the IRS, but you can use the online tool to get several years of information as well, and they'll all be shown differently on the WMAR tool. And then the question I get a lot is direct deposit available for electronically filed amended returns? The answer is no. They will be mailed to you by paper check. So that's a lot of people say, hey, where's my direct deposit? You will be getting a check by the IRS. Normally this takes an extra few days if you get it by direct deposit, but you should be getting a check. A lot of times you may have to make an extra payment, which then you have to send to the IRS by the payment methods they'll include in their notice. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of really common issues and messages taxpayers are seeing after they file their amended return and they go and check the WMAR tool. So it'll always show the year that you're filing. So for example, this shows 2020. It'll show when it was received. And this is unfortunately the first message you can see here is just about the IRS has received your amended return. It's just not being processed. And that could take again several weeks, several months, years in some case. And if you see this message, it just means that there's processing. Now you can call a number here if you want to find out more information to see other things there. If you have a message there that says take action, it'll probably mean that you've received a notice from the IRS. But here's the number you can call. This number, is probably an older number now that this was for 2020. But the point is, when you get this, you can call up, but it just means that your return has been delayed because it's not being processed here. The other message that some people saw for 2021 returns is that you'll think this is a great message. It was received, it was adjusted, and it was completed. You can see that happened, between 3 months, sort of from June to end of September. But a lot of times, just because it's completed, it doesn't mean that your refund is coming. Because what it could mean is that the initial processing is complete. You probably would have got a notice from the IRS. If you haven't, you should call the agent, but it could take a few days to get the notice. But it means that you may be getting a refund, you may owe a payment, the IRS may need more information, right? So just because it's completed, it means processing is complete. It doesn't mean necessarily that you're getting a refund. The IRS may need more information, and if you send that back, the clock may start over again. So just be aware that the completed message, while it looks great, a lot of people are still seeing uh, delays in getting their refunds after that. Now, That being said, if everything was in order and it was completed, which is the case for a lot of people who have standard amendments and it's a simple minor change, completed will also mean that if you do more of a refund, that'll come to you as well. But just be aware that you need to read the notice that comes with your amended return when the determination is made. If there's more taxes due or your refund payment is going to be larger, just make sure you read the notice, right? You'll notice in both these things is you will receive a notice. So it's important that you pay attention to those IRS notices as well. So the last section I'm going to touch on is your IRS transcript. So like I've talked about in several other videos, your IRS tax transcript is free. It's available through your online IRS account, and it can actually tell you a lot of additional information because it basically is a reflection of how the IRS is processing your return and your amended return. So you can see here from the screen, you may need to zoom in a bit, but generally you'll start seeing the transaction codes. Those are the numbers in your left, what happened, dates, and the amounts, right? So you can see here, for example, codes 971, that the amended return was forwarded for processing by the IRS on, March 3rd, and then you basically had the return was filed. So those are basically happening at the same time. You've probably submitted it electronically, so that's why the IRS has got it. If it was paper, you could see a bit of a lag there, right? Then what happens is you'll see code 960 is that 2 months later, and again, this is just reflective of the delays the IRS was facing during this time, and a representative was appointed. So that's code 960, which means that, hey, someone was assigned to look at this amended return because most of this may have had a lot of paper-based returns as well, or there was a certain issue that the IRS has to investigate. So, that's actually the date, the 0503, May 3rd is actually the date the amended return processing will technically start because that's when the representative is assigned and starts looking at it. So you'll see here, the 766 code is just actually probably for the regular return that's being filed. That's the 04015 date. But from an amended return perspective, you should pay attention to what's in the subsequent section. You'll see it in the green box there. So you'll notice the date. It's almost 4 months later, August 30th. So basically, it said that they've reviewed it, they've reduced and removed the prior tax. So you're getting a credit there essentially. You'll get a notice then, 971, which is just a standard IRS process code for, hey, it's like an informational code. But a notice was issued soon after that, 8:30, and the dates tend to be very close to each other because they just tend to all be processed around the same time. So it just means that you got a notice that explain why the tax was reduced or removed. There'll be all a detailed explanation in the thing there, and then the refund is issued related to that, and the date you'll notice there is before is because sometimes, just the way the system processes things, so you can see it there where it's a $1,456 refund. And now because this took a while and it was a mistake on the IRS, you'll see an interest credited to your account, code 776 of $14.17. So pause the video, go back if you want 10 seconds, but the IRS transcript can actually be very useful to show you how all these things are happening, right? These codes will tell you what happened, the dates it happened. And you should also see this on the WMAR tool. It'll probably be a more user-friendly message, but it can be very limited. So if you're going into your transcript, which you can pull up as many times as you want, it's free. You can sort of start seeing the codes and what happened, and it'll give you a sense of, well, hey, where is it with the IRS? And this, I have found at times, can actually be very useful for taxpayers that have been waiting for a long time and not getting through to a live IRS agent. But again, it's another tool. You need some patience. Call an agent eventually because they'll probably be able to help you the most. Go into a taxpayer center as well if that is easier now that we're post-pandemic and all the taxpayer assistance centers are opening up. But hopefully, this information here helps you find out what's happening with your amended return. Again, I'm not a tax professional. All advice here is just informational and for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research and contact a tax professional if you need a lot more information. And as always, if this helps you in any way, please hit the like button and keep subscribing for more videos during tax season. Thank you.